Former Iowa head coach Lisa Bluder had a front row seat for Clark's record-breaking career. Lisa knew Caitlin would be special the first time she watched her play. Do you remember the first time you saw Caitlin play, and what were your thoughts?
Scott, I do remember. She was like 7th grade playing up against high school players, and I thought, wow, this kid is going to be pretty amazing.
You know what's interesting about you both now is you have a connective thread, one of the most transcendent players in the history of women's basketball, in Caitlin Clark, and it's her birthday today. You guys both shouted her out.
Yes, that's my
Coach
girl.
Bluder and Aaliyah. Yeah, you can see on the right-hand side of your screen from Coach, and then Aaliyah doing a mashup of pictures, which is really...
A legendary Iowa coach finally put real words to what the Caitlin Clark era truly felt like. It wasn't the polished highlight version fans remember. She described it as trying to steer a rocket ship, while the entire world argued over where it should land. Every game became a spectacle. Every road trip felt louder and heavier than the last. And the strangest part? The biggest moments weren't always on television. She talked about the pressure Clark carried before tip-off, how even warm-ups could feel tense, how one bad stretch could turn into days of noise, not just from opponents, but from expectations, from the constant spotlight, from people deciding what Iowa should be, what Caitlin should be, and how the story was supposed to go. What made the interview hit differently was the framing. She wasn't describing coaching a superstar. She was describing coaching a person inside a storm, managing energy, protecting confidence, keeping the locker room steady, and still demanding greatness every single night. The emotional weight wasn't about winning games. It was about how fragile everything can feel when a season stops being just basketball and starts being treated like a movement. Here's the real question. Do you credit the coach who built the environment and kept everything grounded through the chaos? Or was Caitlin Clark inevitable, destined to rise no matter the system around her?
How close are you still, Coach, to Caitlin?
Oh, I talk to her quite often. I follow all of her successes and everything. I just always want to be in her camp and support her. I have so much admiration for her, for what she has really not only just accomplished, but what she's handled in her young 24 years.
Once you hear it laid out like this, the Clark era stops feeling like just a simple superstar rise story. It becomes clear that it was something Iowa survived, shaped, and carried together. Caitlin Clark's time at Iowa grew into something bigger than college basketball. Records broken, sold-out arenas, and a level of attention the women's game had never placed on a single player before. Iowa wasn't just playing games anymore. They were on a tour, with every stop feeling like an event, and every arena buzzing with a sense that the sport had shifted. The coach was at the center of it all, not just diagramming plays and making substitutions, but managing the reality of what Clark had become. When one player turns into a national obsession, the job changes. You have to balance development with protection, answer for narratives you didn't create, and keep the team connected while the spotlight follows one person every night. In that interview, she shared that she still keeps in touch with Clark, which is expected, but she went deeper. Her respect for Clark isn't just about her achievements. It's about the enormous weight she carried at such a young age.
I told her today, your 20s have been pretty good to you.
I would say so. Yeah, they've been transformative.
The wording matters. When we say Clark carried the team, it's not about jump shots or assists. It's about the noise, the constant evaluation, the praise that could flip into criticism overnight, and the strange pressure being treated like a symbol instead of a player. Her early 20s were packed with milestones most athletes never touch in a career. A kind of success that looks glamorous but comes with nonstop demand to be perfect, to be available, to be the story every night. Iowa didn't just coach basketball. They navigated a media phenomenon in real time. The coach watched it all from the closest seat, balancing tactics, emotion, and development under a microscope. Every possession had an audience. Every miss became a clip. Every adjustment was judged publicly. Opponents built entire nights around testing Clark, double teaming, traps, psychological pressure, all while the coach had to find real-time answers, not just for plays, but for team confidence. Clark wasn't just a part of the offense. She was the engine, and when the engine sputtered, even briefly, the entire building felt it. That's what most people miss when they talk about records and sellouts. Behind every highlight was a coach keeping the machine steady, while the world waited to judge every result.
happy for Aaliyah when Caitlin went to Indiana, because I knew you were going to reap a lot of those passes down the court, and she was going to feed you the ball. And I just think you guys are such a...
You are trying to prepare for the next opponent. But at the same time, you're trying to protect confidence and perspective. You're trying to keep a locker room unified while the outside world constantly turns your best player into a target, and sometimes even makes your team a prop in someone else's argument. That is why the most revealing part of the coach's comments was how she spoke about Clark's composure. Not as a marketing line, but as something she genuinely respected because she witnessed the hard parts. When a coach says they admire what a player handled, they're usually talking about things that never appear on a stat sheet, bad nights that become headlines, criticism that gets personal, and expectations that don't pause just because you're tired, young, or human. This is where their relationship becomes different from a usual coach-player story. Most coaching relationships exist inside the gym, practice, and game planning. This one had to go beyond that. It became about emotional management, trust, and studying the biggest personality in the program, while the world kept trying to pull her into whatever narrative it wanted that week. That is not just coaching basketball. It is coaching through a spotlight that never turns off. Caitlin Clark was not a player you fit into a plan. She was a plan. A once-in-a-generation engine who could bend defenses with range, pace, and instinct, then punish you for guessing wrong. The hard part for any coach is guiding that without sanding off the edges that make her special. You want structure, but too much structure turns a creator into a robot. You want freedom, but too much freedom can pull a team out of rhythm. What Iowa's staff seemed to understand early on is that Clark's greatest weapon wasn't just her shot. It was her ability to see the next action before it happened. The system had to breathe. Spacing had to make sense. Sets had to be simple enough to play fast, but flexible enough to let her improvise when the defense broke its own rules. That's a coaching decision that comes with real risk. Give a star that much latitude, and if results dip, the blame lands on the coach, not the player. You are signing up to be second-guessed by everyone who only watches the ball. But there's another challenge that's quieter yet equally important. When one player becomes a headline, everyone else can start to feel like supporting cast in their own story. Iowa had real contributors, not extras. Monica Chinano gave an interior foundation. Kate Martin did the glue work that holds possessions together. Gabby Marshall stretched the floor and took tough assignments. Hannah Stueli added athleticism and pressure in transition. Keeping all these pieces invested while the spotlight stayed glued to one person required constant management. That is where the best programs separate themselves. Not by pretending the star isn't the star, but by making every role feel essential to the outcome. The best teams don't run on attention, they run on clarity. The interview also touched on the next chapter, which is fascinating in its own way. Clark and Aaliyah Boston are now in the same locker room in Indiana, and that pairing has its own gravity. Two former college centerpieces learning how to share space, share leadership, and build something new without the noise of the college era.
Watching her final season in college with you here at the desk, and then watching your relationship develop at the professional level.
Yeah, honestly, it has been so great. It's always so weird when you play against someone and then you are on the same team and building that relationship. But I think just over the past 2 years, it's been amazing. From the first time she got to Indy and us just building that relationship on the court, off the court.
The story didn't end when Caitlin Clark left Iowa. It just changed uniforms. One of the most revealing parts of this era is how Clark's college relationships didn't end on campus. They evolved. The way she connects with teammates now, even one she battled against in the biggest moments, speaks volumes about what she learned long before putting on a pro jersey. Aaliyah Boston has shared how Clark consistently keeps her engaged and confident, especially in moments where a big might feel overlooked in a guard-driven offense. That isn't just personality. That's an on-court habit. Leadership through reinforcement, a quick look after a missed shot, an early pass, a reminder that the next possession is coming and you're still part of the plan. Players don't develop that by accident. It comes from the culture they grew up in, the way a program handles pressure, distributes credit, and teaches stars to bring others with them instead of leaving everyone behind. Iowa during those years didn't just coexist as a team. They understood connection as a competitive advantage, but the toughest part of the story is the unfinished business. They reached the title game twice and came up short both times. That kind of outcome is complicated when you're holding a player who can change the sport. It's not just disappointment. It's knowing you were close enough to touch history, Yet the final door stayed closed. For a coach, that frustration is unique. You can do everything right and still be remembered for the one thing you didn't get. Championships are often treated as a final verdict. But the truth is, a coach can build the right system, empower the right player, and still see the result hinge on a few possessions, a matchup, or a bounce of the ball. Those losses sting. Not because the run failed, but because it came so close to perfection and still didn't produce the one trophy people measure everything by. And that's where the admiration matters. When someone who lived beside the pressure says they respect how Clark handled it, it tells you just how easily things could have fallen apart. The constant debate over her style, too many dribbles, too many deep shots, too much control, ignored the reality that she was operating in a microscope. For a coach, protecting the player publicly while being honest privately is a tightrope. It takes trust, honesty, and the ability to guide without stifling genius. That relationship survived the pressure cooker of 4 intense seasons and turned into something permanent. That Clark's impact didn't end at Iowa. You see it in how she empowers teammates like Aaliyah Boston today, keeping them involved, confident, and in the flow. That is leadership you see in the game, but also feel in a way a team moves freer because someone believes in them. It's the mark of a program and a coach that built not just a star, but a culture capable of carrying that star forward.
When you met up with each other, of course, you got all your college history, but then does it not take too long to recognize, hey, this is somebody that is like-minded like me, skilled like me, and can elevate my game to a level that I haven't seen?
I mean,
you had a
know that
fantastic
from playing
season last
against
season.
her. You know that from playing against her, just how competitive she is in that nature. And so to be on the same team, it honestly continues to motivate you because you guys want to be great for each other. And I feel like that's how we play. Like every time we step on the floor, we give each other our pregame hugs, and she says you're going to be amazing because you are amazing, and I say back. But it's just that confidence that Caitlin just continues to make.
The through line is clear. The records were loud, the spotlight even louder. But the most lasting part of the story might be the bond that formed within all that noise, and the way it still shows up in people around Clark today. If you want a clearer sense of who Caitlin Clark is off the stat sheet, listen to how her teammates describe playing with her. They don't talk that way about someone who only cares about numbers. That kind of trust, that steady confidence, doesn't appear overnight. It's shaped over years when habits turn into identity. And much of that foundation was built during the Iowa chapter. What makes the coach's words land is that they aren't wrapped in sentiment. No dramatic speeches, no emotional performance, just a calm acknowledgement of what it really took. Sometimes the most meaningful praise comes without decoration because it reflects a reality lived, not a story being sold. That restraint speaks volumes about how complex the partnership truly was. Coaching a player like Clark isn't just without letting it become a circus. A player who changed the sport without losing her ability to connect, uplift, and lead the people around her. That bond is rare, and you don't understand it until you hear how quietly people speak about it today. The ring would have been a cherry on top, but the shift had already happened. The sport moved. The standard changed. If you want more breakdowns like this, behind-the-scenes angles, and the moment highlight reels never show, you know where to be. Follow WNBA Hoopline TV. Stay locked in, hit like, subscribe, comment, and share. Every angle covered, the leaks, the backstage moments, the things they won't show you. Stay locked in, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.